let's go ahead and dive in to discuss some of the presentation topics. So first, we'll kind of speak a bit about the current situation in Tulalip and an outline of some of our responses that we've taken as a community, give you some highlights from our Tulalip Police Department's Drug Task Force, and a look at some of the other resources in our opioid treatment program that we have here at Tulalip. And I'll also go into the importance of culturally relevant programming and cultural competency. So no matter what field you work in, no matter what field of study that you're in, or what your particular role is and where, some of this can be applied everywhere. It's important for every one of us to focus on. And so that's how this really ties into the topics of this reimagining behavioral health, race equity, and social justice gathering. We're going to go into some of the harder truths. So overdose deaths. Here in Tulalip since 2017, there have been over 64 Tulalip tribal citizen fentanyl-related overdose deaths. That is a number that we can confirm. However, I know from personal experience that it's really hard to actually quantify those because they're not always reported as fentanyl related. There's not always an autopsy. There's not always a way to know for sure. So that's just the confirmed cases. That number has grown. But the good news is since we have started to really attack this and throw everything that we can at it and really have put forth these resources, that number per year has started to decrease. We're actually seeing some of this begin to really make a difference and for it to work. So that's the good news. It really is making a difference. Now, according to the Department of Health, American Indian and Alaska Native residents have the highest rate of death from opioid overdoses of any other racial or ethnic group in Washington state. So we're really here to talk about race equity and social justice, and that's one key indicator right there. That's a fact that things are not equal, right? So more of us as tribal citizens and Alaska Natives pass away than any other racial or ethnic group in Washington state. Most recently, the fentanyl overdose mortality rate in Washington tribal communities has significantly increased and is estimated to be 3 to 10 times greater. So it's another statistic to support this. And in 2023, 59% of the positive UDS screens at our opioid treatment facility contained fentanyl. So fentanyl is really our largest obstacle right now. We've learned that it's recently made its way into vape devices. So what we used to see the M30, the blue pills. That's what we came across most often. Nowadays, they're not the manufacturers or producers, these fly-by-night laboratories are no longer even bothering with that. You might see a blue pill, but they'll just sell you just powder in a bag. They're not even bothering to take the time anymore because the buyers they know what they're buying. They're actually looking for it to have fentanyl in it. And so don't pretend like it's something else when your buyer's gonna be looking for fentanyl anyway. So we learned that fentanyl test strips are not as important anymore than some others. I'll give you an example. So in our opioid treatment program, we used to have fentanyl test strips because we wanted our community to know if they were purchasing fentanyl because it was so dangerous. We wanted you to be able to test your supply, right, to keep you safe. These days, that's actually what they want. They want it to have fentanyl in it, unfortunately. That's what they're looking for. And so instead, we'll buy test strips for things like xylazine, which there is no, like Narcan will not work with xylazine. So you can't reverse an overdose if your supply had xylazine in it. You also know it may be as tranq. So we've had to shift the way that we do things. We've had to shift our resources to meet them where they are and to keep them safe in a different way. So the statistic there at the bottom, the 59%, that just means that 59% of all of those drug screens contain fentanyl. That's just how prominent it is. So it's more often than not, it's present. it's rare that fentanyl is not in a positive drug screen. So what are we doing about it? We're not going to wait for someone to come in and ride in on a white horse and save us, right? So we as a Tulalip community and other neighboring tribes as well have decided enough is enough. And if we really do care about our people, we're going to take action ourselves. So not saying that there aren't organizations who support us, but again, we have to really put our people first, and we have to be willing to put our money where our mouth is. So we've taken action, real action steps. One of those is we participated in the Governor's Opioid Summit at Lumbee Nation in May of 2023. So we've started to hold summits. Tribes get together and we talk about the hard stuff. We're talking about the opioid epidemic, and we're talking about what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, what types of things we're facing, what are you seeing there, what's worked, what hasn't, and learning from each other. We're all getting into a large room, and sometimes the governor's there, sometimes it's the attorney general, really anyone who wants to come in and hear us out, we welcome that. We're hoping to get more support, but we get together as relatives and really support one another in trying to attack this. So we're stronger together. We realized that. So that was the first of those summits. We've had more. We have them annually since then. But then we also hosted the very first ever National Tribal Opioid Fentanyl Summit in August of 2023 here at the Tulalip Resort. That was the very first of its kind. So the first on the national level to bring tribes from all across the United States together to do that exact same thing. We declared a public state of emergency in the fall of 2023. Other tribes stepped up to the plate and said, we're going to declare a state of emergency based on the opioid epidemic, even if the state of Washington isn't going to, or even if the federal government isn't going to, we are going to. We are a nation within a nation. And so as a sovereign nation, we decided we're going to declare a state of emergency because that's just how significant this is. We have amended tribal code to upgrade drug distribution from a misdemeanor to a felony. Again, what can we do here at home to make a difference? We're going to make this more significant of a violation. And that was not easy to do. That did not happen overnight. But there's nothing we won't throw at this because people are losing their loved ones. We strengthened tribal laws to establish per se limits for fentanyl. What that means is if you have a specific amount, which now we have a number, a quantity for that, then we don't believe that you intended to use it for recreational, for yourself, for personal use, right? It's intent to sell. So we put those limits, those numbers on that. And then we formed a partnership between the tribe's Opioid Treatment Program and the Tribal Court or Wellness Court to induct incarcerated tribal members into medication-assisted treatment. What that means is that before they are taken into custody and taken into the jail system, they have an opportunity to ask for help. So they can self-declare, and they can volunteer to participate in a screening process and get inducted onto medication-assisted treatment before they are taken into incarceration. And we also work very closely with our tribal court and wellness programs to transport them back to our facility once they are incarcerated to make sure that they get the treatment they need. So this is a very cumbersome process. It can be very complex, but again, there's nothing we won't do, nothing we won't try. So our Tulalip Police Department, our court system, and our opioid treatment program have all gotten together to form a true partnership and collaboration to make sure that our members and community members get the help that they need, especially when they're most vulnerable. Something that I'll mention in addition to that is that, speaking of vulnerability, you are most likely to pass away from an overdose when you are released from prison or from the jail system, because you go back out into the world. Maybe you end up in a similar environment that you're used to, in those same circles, the same places, And you use again because you don't remember that, oh, it's been this many months since I haven't had anything. And so you overdose and pass away because you don't have that tolerance anymore. So what we believe is if we establish a relationship with that person who has a sentence to serve before they go into the jail system, then we're going to be more likely to also prevent that from happening because we have established that relationship. So they come directly to us. We try to catch them and have that warm handoff before they enter back into that environment. So we've established a relationship prior to them going in, and we also have established communication with these systems so that we know when they're getting out. So we're there, we're ready to receive them, and we try to head them off before they can potentially harm themselves. So it's a heavy lift, but we just believe that, again, there's nothing we won't try, and this is a very vulnerable population, so that's why we started that. And some of the other responses and action steps that we've taken, we established a drug tip hotline, Victims of Crime program, and prevention model pilot program, implemented a community response team, and a chronic nuisance properties team as well. So we kind of know it's a smaller community here. We kind of know where some of this is happening. And so this is a really great way for people to communicate with the Tulalip Police Department. And that response team, what that is it's kind of like, you might see sometimes social workers embedded with sheriff's departments. It's similar to that. So we actually have trained staff who've gone through certification programs who will actually say, similar to those social workers, they'll go out and they will actually try and meet those people where they are without, fear of arrest or anything like that. They're just going out to see, how can I help you? What's going on here? And is there something that we can provide you to help you? Again, just giving another opportunity to have that conversation. And that's been pretty successful. We've established a drug task force. So that's, what you normally would see with a canine, there's detectives. We're not messing around. We know that a lot of the cartel will come here and they will hide on a reservation because they don't fear prosecution. We're changing all that, whether it's a tribal code that we have to change or an MOU that we have to enter into, some sort of agreement we enter into with state agencies, we can now prosecute them. There's a bill going forward, and as long as that is supported, we will be able to, prosecute on our own lands. Because currently, if you're non-native, we cannot. So they come here and they hide, and they sell and they do whatever they're going to do without fear of prosecution, which is really difficult for us to accept. Even if we find them, there's not a whole lot we can do. So that's one of the barriers that we still have that we're working through, but we have established that drug task force to at least help to curb some of this behavior. We created the Opioid Prevention Task Force and Multidisciplinary Response Team to provide increased services. And what that means is someone from the Opioid Treatment Program, someone from the health system here, someone from our behavioral health team would sit on this panel to essentially figure out how can we best collaborate? How can we put our heads together? How can we, develop a holistic approach so that no one organization is responsible? It's all of us coming together as a team and as one force to figure out how best we can close these loops. We also helped draft bipartisan legislation titled the PROTECT Act to protect tribal sovereignty and restore criminal jurisdiction. So this is what I was kind of starting to touch on earlier, is that we would be able to take action over non-natives for the following types of crimes. We can't currently do that. So without this legislation passing, we won't be able to, but we have developed this PROTECT Act to fill this gap and allow us to take more ownership over what's actually occurring on our nation's lands. This is still in progress, may take multiple years, but we're not going to give up because there's just, with that barrier, that obstacle in place, there's just really no way that we're ever going to be able to completely remove this type of behavior. And it just creates such a barrier for us to help our people. So we're going to keep fighting. It's that important. All right, so these are some images of some of the highlights from media releases that have come from that drug task force that I mentioned. The drug task force works for the Tulalip Police Department, and these are just some of the busts that have occurred in the last couple of years. You see on March 8th, 2023, there's some fentanyl and some methamphetamine and so on. It was interesting. There were, 9 firearms, homemade explosives. I'm not sure why they would need homemade explosives, and I'm glad that we didn't have to find out. October the 3rd, almost 7 ounces of fentanyl, almost 60 grams of methamphetamine, and a couple of firearms. These are real drug busts these are real highlights that were publicized from the Tulalip Police Department. These are just a couple of the first ones. October 20th, 2023, over a pound of methamphetamine, more than 2,000 counterfeit oxycodone fentanyl pills, and you see some heroin, some scales, some baggies, and a substantial amount of cash. So obviously this was a dealer. This is someone with intent to sell. We're very proud of this work. But again, we know we're just scratching the surface, but we're going to keep fighting. Hopefully that legislation will pass so that we can implement harsher punishments for some of these folks. January 31st, 2024, so we're moving now into this current year, 110 grams of fentanyl powder, over 800 counterfeit oxycodone pills, some heroin, meth, cocaine, almost $7,000. So again, similar to October, we know there was intent and that they were dealing on our reservation lands. All of these are within Tulalip boundaries, by the way. Again, this year, April, almost 5,000 fentanyl pills, some Vicodin, some methamphetamine, and some fentanyl. May of this year, 3 pounds marijuana, 820 Suboxone strips. That one's a little bit harder for me to accept. It's a little disheartening, to say the least, because our opioid treatment program and our other substance use disorder programs, with the best of intentions, right? We prescribe Suboxone, but it does end up on the street. So that's a little tougher for me sometimes to accept, but they absolutely do sell Suboxone strips. And then some heroin, some fentanyl, and a stolen firearm. In June of this year, you see some heroin, some fentanyl pills, and some cash. And in August, almost 11,000 fentanyl pills. Some methamphetamine, 2.12 pounds of fentanyl. If you can imagine 2.12 pounds of a flour, it's similar to that. So you can it's hard to even fathom just how many people that could have killed, right? And how much fentanyl that actually is. If you were to press it down into pills or sell it in little bags, it's so dangerous. Yeah, over 2 pounds of fentanyl. It's kind of mind blowing. 4 illegally possessed firearms and some cash. Okay, this one was really interesting for me to come across. So this was in 2023. I first learned about this, and I thought, well, who does this look like this is for, right? We kind of heard about some of the Tic Tac containers or candy containers that would be made to look like candy, and that would have colorful fentanyl pills in it, right? You see a red one, a green one, a blue one, kind of solid like an M&M. Well, this though was new for me, because the Tulalip police, as you can see in this description here, confiscated more than 50 of these on our reservation here in Tulalip, on our nation's lands. 50 rainbow-colored fentanyl pills, but they were no longer solid. They were actually rainbow. So someone, and the jury's out on this, but someone seemed to be targeting children or targeting teenagers, making it look fun. And they were so dedicated to that mission that they decided they're going to mix the colors. This might be more interesting to them, right? I don't know, but that was really hard for me because as I learned about this, I had a 17-year-old at home and I had an 8-year-old at home. And either one of them could have, this could have landed in either one of their hands. And so it infuriated me that these people, committing these illegal acts and manufacturing this fentanyl, it felt very personal. It felt like they were targeting my kids. Okay, I can't prove that, but again, this was just really interesting to me, and I wanted to highlight that this is out there as well. So it's not always going to be the blue ones. It's not always going to be the powder. Sometimes they look entirely different than what you might expect. This made it all the way into Phoenix, Arizona. So I found a news story that included something very similar. It almost looks like the same manufacturer created these. And so, it's just everywhere. Okay, so let's talk about our resources. The Healing Lodge it's quite a special place. So we bought a horse ranch from a family who was retiring from the industry. And in May 2015, we opened this as a transitional home to help our members get back on their feet. So it's a beautiful home on all of this acreage. You can picture, just green grass and, beautiful fencing and actual horses. Yes, they're still there as equine therapy. And we've given them a place to, again, transition. So they've entered into recovery, but they're not quite ready to live on their own. They're not quite there yet. And so we have some classes that we offer inside the building. We will transport them to their groups. So whether it's AA, NA, and so on, we will actually provide transportation. So this is sober living. And we will connect them with educational activities like life skills and budgeting, those types of things. We'll help them apply for jobs. It's really to give them that next step, but supported instead of just, okay, we'll go back into your environment. Good luck. Again, just another tool in the toolbox. Okay, and then the Recovery Resource Center, that building is where we hold NA and AA meetings, not just for Tulalip citizens, but the whole community. Everyone's welcome. We hold those on our reservation. We have peer support on site, referrals, educational groups. So similar to what we offer out in the Healing Lodge, but this is more, so the Healing Lodge is actually in Stanwood. And there's a purpose behind that as well. We want you, again, to have that clear break from your old environment. So, or maybe your that same friend group or whatnot. So we want you to be set up for success. But because we provide transportation, we will transport you back home to attend things like this so that you're still a part of your community, because we know how critical that is. But it's more protected. You're supported the entire time, and so you can come and go, but again, we're just trying to provide those bumpers, kind of like just those protections so that you're more likely to be successful. The Healing Lodge is in Stanwood, Washington, and we provide overdose rescue kits, and those are on site. Actually, speaking of overdose rescue kits, so our Recovery Resource Center does this really cool thing. It's called Meals on Wheels. So sometimes you'll just be driving down one of our main roads here, and you'll see them out with a table, and they'll have these overdose rescue kits. They'll serve pizza, they'll make lasagna, something like that. So they'll lure you in with the food, but here you go, here's your Narcan as well. It's kind of like this, just like a marketing thing where they're like, come for the pizza, come for those lasagna, come for this warm meal, and then kind of like slip here's your Narcan. It's really genius, actually, and it's very well received, and it just makes this. It helps to make Narcan more readily available, and also is more normalized. Everyone should have this. I have it in my car. Even if you don't know anyone with a substance use disorder, it doesn't mean that you won't be out shopping one day and someone won't need it. You just never want to be caught without it. So we have Narcan distribution boxes at our pharmacy, our opioid treatment program, out of this recovery resource center, kind of anywhere we can stick them, because you could just never have enough. And we just believe that everyone, no matter what your background, no matter what your family life is like, your environment, needs to have this with them at all times. It's really easy. Just we're just trying to help. We're trying to help normalize it and it be just as common as anything else. Having a chapstick in your purse. We want to remove the stigma and the barriers around that. The Village of Hope. This is also on the Tulalip Reservation, and we built this as permanent supportive housing. So unlike the Healing Lodge, where it's meant to be a step or a transitional home, the Village of Hope is actually more of a permanent housing model, meaning that there's no time limit. There isn't a certain number of months or a certain number of years. You can stay there as long as you need to. There are 17 tiny homes, and we provide a lot of the same supports we do at the Healing Lodge and the Recovery Resource Center within this community. So there's a building where they'll help you with getting enrolled for with insurance and getting you to healthcare services, treatment, employment services, whatever you need. There's kind of this resource built right into the middle of the community, this building, that you can go to for assistance. There's a computer lab, a conference room, and a playground. Families are welcome. You can bring your spouse, you can bring your children, and you can live there as long as you need to. There's some classes on site as well, but this is more permanent supportive housing. So you're not quite comfortable or interested or ready to live it out on your own, but you're ready to also be self-sustaining enough to run your household, but just with this safety net, these support systems. And so there's all different levels of resources that we've built, because we realize that we have to meet them where they are. Not everyone is in the same place, and they'll also, from day to day, maybe be in a different place. And so we're just trying to build a little bit of everything to throw everything we can at it. The pallet shelter is low barrier. It's more of a housing first model. So if we can get you warm, if we can keep you dry, if we can just get you off of the street, then maybe that's all we can do today. We can just keep you safe today. There is security on site. There are cameras. There's 24-hour, 7 days a week monitoring and security. It is behind a gate. So again, we're trying to keep you safe and trying to keep you alive for just one more day, because that next day could be the day that you decide to seek help. But each day is a new opportunity, because you can't help someone if they're dead. But so low barrier is housing first. And we really just tried to remove as many of the barriers, requirements, restrictions. Let's just get you off the street. Let's just get you, like I said, warm, fed, safe. And maybe tomorrow you'll seek more, or maybe the next day, or maybe the next day. But every day is an opportunity to help you. There's 20 units. They're climate controlled. You can see that's an actual image of our pallet shelter facility there. There's a house in the top right corner, and that's where we have our outreach workers. So there's someone there most of the time, and you can go in and you can seek additional services. We also transport from here to our opioid treatment program or to our health facilities or to our behavioral health facilities. So all you have to do is ask. But again, we've just given you one more opportunity and hopefully several more opportunities. But that's kind of our few options there. And there you can see they're a little bit different from each other, but we just want to have more tools in our toolbox. So this one is very close to my heart. This is our opioid treatment program. It's called the Quil Ceda Creek Counseling Company, and it's in Tulalip, Washington. Now, it's been open since early 2023. I was part of the team that helped open that. I was the head of the organization for about a year and a half. And already, just since early 2023, see, we're not even quite through 2024, we're bursting at the seams. We have hit capacity. We have had an overwhelming response for our services. And we realized very quickly that this was happening. And the last thing that I wanted was to have to turn someone away. And that's the kind of thing that keeps me up at night. So in late 2023, we started planning for an expansion. We knew that this was going to be the trend. And again, to get ahead of that, turning someone away at the door, we are currently under construction. We've broken ground, we're under construction to expand our facility by half, or excuse me, by double. So we're going to go from about 6,000 square feet to another 5,000 square feet. We'll be able to hire additional staff, and we'll be able to double our capacity from 150 to 300, and that should be completed in March of 2025. So what we offer there, what types of services we offer, medications for opioid use disorder, so that's that medication-assisted treatment, all sorts of counseling. It's holistic, so everything's in the same building. We don't want you to have to be sent out to go and seek mental health counseling or have to worry about childcare, have to worry about how you're going to get there. It's really as closed loop as you can get. We even have primary care on site if something's going on, even if it's not directly related to your opioid use disorder. We have doctors there who can assist you. Again, we want to offer as many things within this building as we possibly can, not just the medication, but also those other supports. Because if we do it all in one building, we figured out very quickly that it's a way that we can assure that it's happening, that you're actually getting that support. Because if we refer you out to someone else, we don't know if you actually went or if you were able to get the care that you need. We can control more of that and make sure that you're taken care of. But also it's just easier, right? We don't want this to be difficult. We want our patients to be able to get as many of these resources in one place, because we all have lives, busy lives, we have things going on, and also it gives them less of an opportunity to change their minds. Every time they leave our building, we're not sure if they're going to come back. We're not sure if we'll see them the next day. It helps to build that relationship. It's more holistic, and we just are able to deepen that relationship and build, those services in a way that we're just giving them more time. So anyway, that's a little bit about the Quil Ceda Creek Counseling Company. That's our opioid treatment program. So you must have an opioid use disorder to be admitted or to be inducted into our facility, but we think it's pretty special. It's the first of its kind here at Tulalip, and it's expanding. So it's on its second phase. It's pretty exciting. We're very, very proud of this program. Here's some photos of inside the facility. That's our child watch there on the left. That's our conference room, one of our exam rooms, and our lab. And here's some of the achievement highlights. I spoke a little bit about this, but we reached near full capacity in 12 months. So that's 150 patients. It is an outpatient treatment program. So, again, we hope they are going to come back the next day. We do everything we can to build that bond and that relationship, with our counseling staff, from our security staff to our front desk staff to our counseling staff. Every single person is an opportunity to build that relationship. So it's a smile, it's a hello, it's a, we're so glad to see you. We're so happy you're here today. I was hoping I'd see your face. We're building that relationship throughout the building. Every single person is an opportunity. Every interaction is an opportunity. So I often see, patients will fist bump the security, or they'll say to them, "You're the reason I came back today, because of how you look at me with a smile, or how you are so glad to see me. Your face lights up when I come in here. I know it matters to you that I came back. And so I come back for that, to see that expression." Security is meant to keep people safe, and that's what they're there for, but also they're part of that connection. They're part of the, just that relationship that we build. And if the security person at the front door is the reason they come back the next day, we've done our job. That's, again, it's an opportunity that we've seized. All right, so some of the other achievements: we've successfully counseled and treated several patients on site for hepatitis C. That means completely cleared of the virus, completely on site. So we test you for hepatitis C, and not only do we test you, we don't send you out for treatment. We have it there on site, and we can include it with your daily dosing. You take the medication along with your daily dose, and we can literally free you of hepatitis C as part of our promise to you. There's very little we won't do to try to keep people safe. Something else I should mention that I should have touched on earlier is this is not just for Tulalip tribal members. This facility is open to the public. So although we're on Tulalip's lands, although we are first and foremost hoping to address some of the opioid use disorders within our own community, we also realize that the surrounding communities are important, because, again, we live together, we interact all of the time. And so we're not going to say that this is only for us, because who is us, right? Us, our community, our community, and that extends beyond Tulalip. So this is open to the public. We launched a partnership with Tulalip Tribal Court. I mentioned that earlier. I went into a little bit more detail earlier. We collaborated with the Marysville Municipal Jail to reduce barriers. So if someone who's a patient at another opioid treatment facility ends up in the Marysville Municipal Jail, we also have a relationship with them to help them get their medication. So we've built these relationships and collaborated with law enforcement, because that gives us an insight into where our patients are, and whether they're the patient of a neighboring opioid treatment program or ours, they're going to get what they need. We have that connection. We know that they're there. They call us, they say, "Hey, we have so-and-so. They've asked us to call you because they need their medication," and we will actually bring it to them. We try not to forget about these opportunities for these vulnerable incarcerated persons. We launched our transportation division in early 2024. That was a really big deal for us, because we'd have to give out bus passes, and a lot of these folks don't have reliable transportation. So we were very proud to launch our shuttle service. We'll come and get you at your home. We'll bring you back. We will even transport your children. We, again, are focused on removing barriers. And transportation is an easy one. That's one of the easiest barriers to remove. We have now expanded to 2 shuttles, and we'll keep going as much as, if there's a need, we'll keep growing it. But we don't want you to not come and seek treatment and not see us that day because of something like an unreliable vehicle, or you missed your bus. That's just an easy one. Construction of phase 2 kicked off late summer of this year, and like I said, that'll double our capacity. That's scheduled to finish or be completed in March. Some of our keys to success. So using contingency management intentionally. So these are some of the things that have really lent to our success. This is what makes us different, we feel, from other opioid treatment programs, is we're really focused on these key things. So contingency management intentionally, what does that mean? What is contingency management? That's the carrot and the stick. So if you haven't heard of that before, a carrot is kind of like you're leading them towards something that provides positive reinforcement, right? And then the stick is like your discipline, right? You're saying you weren't here on time, so we're not going to give you a medication or something like that. So you can think of this as what's the right balance between softness and kid gloves and being more firm. We have to use it intentionally, because if you over reward, then it loses its effect. If you over discipline or you provide negative reinforcement too much, you're going to drive that person away. So you have to be very careful to balance them. Individualized treatment is paramount, never optional. No two people are the same, so their treatment program can't be the same. We focus on making sure that every single person that comes through the door is given a thorough evaluation and is able to meet with our counseling staff. And we really figure out, what do you need? You personally, in your situation, with your experiences, where are you? And how can we best support you? We're very, very careful with that, because again, no two people are different. They may be similar, but they are not the same. We set clear boundaries and expectations and provide structure and encourage accountability. So what we've noticed in just the last couple of years is that if you provide structure, it really does lend itself to these patients' success, because that's what they're craving. They may not know that at the time, but if you provide those boundaries and that structure, then it's easier for them to take personal responsibility and accountability. And I'll give you an example. So early on, when we opened this facility, we just wanted to help people. We just wanted to help. We wanted to get them what they needed, and people would arrive after dosing hours. Say it used to end at 10 o'clock, and they would arrive at 10:15 or 10:30. And we let them dose anyway. We just kept kind of moving the goalpost, and we would shift and we would be flexible, and because we wanted them to get their medication, right? But what we realized is we were not helping them, because if we continue to do that, then they weren't encouraged to develop different behaviors and to be accountable. And we were actually harming them more than anything. So we started to be a bit more strict, and then a bit more strict. And what we noticed pretty quickly is that our patients were getting there on time, because we were holding firm. We were setting those clear boundaries. And so what people actually needed from us was structure. And then if they learn, okay, if I get to the clinic on time and I get my medication on time, oh, that felt really good. I wasn't having to ask for them to stay open. I wasn't having to ask them to make an exception. I was on time. Well, if I can do that, maybe I can be on time to a job, or maybe I can go and get my license back, or maybe, it just kind of sparks all sorts of things. So we learned very quickly that was what we needed to do, is we needed to adapt to help them adapt. Go beyond self-care, provide meaningful training. So we're talking about staff now. And again, regardless of the industry that you work in, whether you ever set foot in a treatment program, this is extremely important, but it's more important, most important in behavioral health fields, because the work we do is heavy. It's really difficult. So teach your staff, what does vicarious trauma mean? What is compassion fatigue? What is burnout? Burnout we've probably all heard of, right? But you might not have heard of vicarious trauma. You might not have heard of compassion fatigue. So we need to teach them what it is, how to recognize it, and how they can help themselves through it. What kinds of tools can we have in our tool belts to protect ourselves from this heavy lift that we do every single day? Because otherwise, we maybe can't keep doing it, right? Maybe it's not sustainable. But just teach them even what these things are and how to notice them, how to recognize them, and what to do. You build in methods of constant communication between departments and look for feedback. And what that means to me, what that means is you say you have an open door policy, but what does that really look like? You're expecting your people, right, the employees that you're blessed to serve, to come through the door. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't think that that's the right approach. Not just saying you have an open door policy and expecting them to come through the door. What I mean is you seek out feedback. Go to them. Bring everyone into your room. Have them all get into the sandbox. Let's brainstorm. Let's get together. But you go to them. What's stopping a leader from going into your a staff member's office and just saying hello? Maybe you do that enough times and they'll be more comfortable, and you can develop that trust in order to actually give you feedback. But don't just say, come to me if you need anything. Solicit the feedback. If you have a project, or if you have maybe a marketing campaign, something you're launching, say, hey, can I get your opinion on this? What do you think about this? I'm not really sure what to do here. Can I, borrow you for a second? Actively solicit the feedback from all levels, not just your direct reports. Bring them all in on the decision. Because the more that you do that, they know that they're valuable. They know that you value their feedback. But you don't just say, I have an open door policy, come through it if you want. Like you're actually actively taking time to give them those opportunities, because you mean it when you say you actually do want to know what they think. So prove it. Just there's steps you can take is all I'm saying. Collaborate and maintain open communication with local resources. We're stronger together. The Opioid Treatment Program is small, it's mighty, but how much more can we do if we build these relationships and collaborate, and we lean on the resources of all of us rather than just what Q4C has? It's what we lovingly named it. Quil Ceda Creek Counseling Company, Q4C. But again, small and mighty, but we're stronger together. That's why we have these summits with other tribes, with our relatives. We're stronger together. So let's get together and let's pool our resources and let's meet it. Be proactive whenever possible. Adapt. Try and see around corners. We don't know what the next fentanyl is going to be. We don't know what else is coming, but just try and be proactive whenever possible. Keep yourself updated on, no matter what industry you're in, just kind of keep yourself updated and adapt before you have to. So be proactive rather than reactive. I've just found that that's so much better for really everyone. And you can meet your patients where they are more often, or your community, your customers, what have you. Adapt to meet the needs of staff and your patient population. Same thing. Be flexible, be adaptable, never get stuck in your ways, never do what you've always done because you've always done it. I really, really have a problem with that. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I couldn't really tell you, but I don't believe in doing something because we've always done it this way. I know change is hard. I get it. Change can be difficult, but it's also so much more detrimental when you're not willing to keep an open mind and you're not willing to try new things. You miss all the shots you don't take, right? And being in your comfort zone can feel really, really nice, but what aren't you doing? What more could you be doing if you were just willing to take a risk now and then? But again, that leads back to feedback, seeking that feedback. Maybe I don't know what we should try. maybe I don't see a gap. Maybe I myself, I can't be everywhere all of the time seeing all the things. So lean on your resources, your staff, your people, or their resources, and they have a lot to offer. Ask those questions, seek that feedback, because they may be thinking of something or may have noticed something that you didn't, but you'll never know unless you give them that environment.
I don't want to cut you off. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to let you know there's a lot of questions in the chat, and we only have about 3 minutes left. So do you want to jump to Q&A?
Yeah.
Great. And I also just want to bring your attention. You're getting a lot of praise in the chat for the work that you're doing. People are just saying thank you. And a few people talked about how they've gotten emotional during this. So thank you so much for this session. So we'll kick it off with the first question. These strategies and supports feel so supportive and healing. Why do you think systems outside of Tulalip and other Indigenous communities refuse to take these approaches or strategies also?
Gosh. Well, I don't know enough about, why they don't. I can't really speak for them, but I know some of the reasons why some organizations or communities don't, and that's because it's scary. Maybe they're not familiar with methadone, or maybe there's stigma around methadone, or maybe there's Suboxone or this medication-assisted treatment. They don't want to talk about it. Sometimes they don't even want to have the conversation. Like, well, we'll leave that to someone else, or we'll leave that to the experts. And maybe they're afraid to try something new. Maybe it's financing. I mean, it can be all sorts of things. But again, you miss all the shots you don't take. And so I would just encourage people to get out of their comfort zones. And if we're not going to help, who's coming?
Right. So you just mentioned maybe they don't have the funding. This next question is, how are these programs funded, such as the Quil Ceda Creek Counseling Company and building the expansion?
So Tulalip paid 100% for this facility. It was Tulalip's hard dollars. It was Tulalip funded. We did not seek grants. I can only speak for us, but we decided to take control. We decided to put our money into these resources. So nearly everything that I displayed today, all the resources that I displayed today, was 100% Tulalip funded.
Okay, and then I think we have time for this last question. How do you support but not enable an addict?
That's really difficult. So if we had a bit more time, I would explain to you how I actually ended up in front of you today. And I actually have an in-law who is an active, has an active substance use disorder, and we always worry if we're going to get stress about getting that call. I can speak personally from this, personally and professionally. I got the phone call. My mom passed in late 2020 from a substance use disorder, and I've lost 2 other uncles in the last few years, and so I know from personal experience as well as professional experience how you help them and not enable them. There's no perfect answer. But what I have learned is you have to love them anyway, love them through it, not love them despite their substance use disorder, but love them because you love them. Whether it's someone you actually know well or someone you don't, but these are human beings. At the end of the day, these are human beings. So help them every chance you get. You can't force them into recovery. You can't force them into treatment. They have to want it. That's not just a thing. They have to want treatment. You cannot want it badly enough for them to go. Until they're ready, they won't go. But just love them and show up for them over and over, even if they let you down, even if you don't believe they're really ready. Just answer the call every time. Answer the phone. I love you. Maybe you won't give them funding. Maybe you won't give them more gas money, but I'm here. I love you. Answer the phone. That's all I can say, but there's no perfect answer to that. I wish I had one.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up, but there's a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to. But thank you so much for your time today, Tanya. We appreciate the gift of your time and expertise and your willingness to address such a complex topic. And